Good afternoon. Welcome back to St. Peter's in Hove. I'm Father Alexander, and here we are taking our 191st step in our walking tour through the Bible, and we're going to be looking at the 120th Psalm, brackets 121. I've left out a lot of familiar Psalms, largely because, well, we've got to get a move on, and it's a walking tour. You can speed up or slow down as you see fit. We've been very slow going through the book of the Psalms. And also because some of those psalms are very, very familiar, but I don't really have much to say about them. Well, 120, 121, I got a great deal to say. Or rather, maybe I haven't, but what I would just like to do is draw your attention to this psalm because it is a perfect work of art. What do we mean when we say something's a perfect work of art? It means that there is a complete concordance between the thing and what it's trying to convey. Form and content are completely aligned, and you're not left wondering at the end what went wrong or what didn't work. You go away completely satisfied. In fact, the poem is an objective correlative, as T.S. Eliot would say, to your feelings as you read the poem. The poem, the words of the poem, completely answer your feelings. And the person, the poet, the psalmist, completely expresses himself without failing. So you're not left thinking, I wonder what he means. I lift up my eyes to the mountains, from whence shall come my help. My help shall come from the Lord, who made heaven and earth. May he never allow you to stumble. Let him sleep not, your God. No, he sleeps not, nor slumbers, Israel's God. The Lord is your guard and your shade. At your right hand stands, at your right side he stands. By day the sun shall not smite you, nor the moon in the night. The Lord will guard you from evil, he will guard your soul. The Lord will guard your going and coming, both now and forever. It's a very good translation because it's not because it necessarily expresses the words of the Hebrew accurately, but because it's been rendered into absolutely beautiful English. This is, as an English poem, an extremely fine poem. I lift up my eyes to the mountains. From whence shall come my help? I feel, as I said right at the beginning when talking about the Psalms are existential. They sum up various feelings, various moments that we've all experienced. And I certainly have experienced that moment when I've lifted up my eyes to the mountains and said, from where shall come my help? And immediately the answer has come, my help shall come from the Lord, who made both heaven and earth. Why do we look up at the mountains? Why do we lift up our eyes? Well, it's very simple. The answer to that question is because we're human beings. We lift up our eyes, we look for help. We are dependent, rational creatures. And as rational creatures, we seek reassurance and rationality. As dependent creatures, we seek the help of God, that which is above us. So I lift up my eyes to the mountains, from whence shall come my help? It's not a rational question, it's an existential question. In my frailty as a human being, in my, how can I put it, in my sense that I'm only here for a short time, in my sense that I'm a transient creature, I look to what is eternal, the mountains. They symbolize what is eternal. I look towards God without actually saying, oh God, are you there? I lift up my eyes to the mountains, from whence shall come my help? My help shall come from the Lord, who made heaven and earth. Just as I am a speck on this earth, and a speck compared to the heavens, yet the creator of all things has me in mind. I have him in mind. I naturally turn to him, and he naturally turns to me. It is the nature of God to think about his creatures. It is the nature of the creature to think about God. Now, this is not an argument for the existence of God. This is actually a description of what it is to be a religious believer, to be dependent on God. This is the act of prayer, the lifting of the eyes to the mountains, the lifting of the heart and mind to God. May he never allow you to stumble. Let him sleep not, your God. No, he sleeps not, nor slumbers, Israel's God. So God is all present, all encompassing, all alert, and he's constantly looking after us. This is actually sort of expressed for children in particular through the doctrine of the guardian angel. God has sent his messenger before us. God has sent his messenger, his agent, who is looking after us. But God is the one who sent the guardian angel. It's God who's looking after us. He never goes to sleep. He never stumbles. He slumbers. And you never stumble because he is with you. Well, hang on. What happens if something awful happens to you? Let's say you're in a car crash or whatever. You have the assurance, somehow or another, that what is happening to you is part of God's will for you, and God has not abandoned you. You remember when the Titanic ran into the iceberg? How are you going to behave when you see the deck is beginning to tilt? Do you go into the bar and order a stiff drink and keep calm? Or do you kneel on the deck and say the rosary? Those people who knelt on the deck and said the rosary, and those perhaps who may not have been Catholics who were having a drink in the bar, they were doing the right thing. They kept calm. They knew what would be, and God would help. As for the people who ran around screaming, it didn't make any difference to the way they ran around screaming. It didn't change the outcome. The Lord is your guard and your shade. He's always right next to you, you see. At your right side he stands. By day the sun shall not smite you, nor the moon in the night. So the sun won't give you sunstroke, and the moon will have no effect on you. It used to be a very old belief that the phases of the moon somehow affected human behavior. The forces of nature have been tamed by God. The forces of nature need not frighten us as they frighten the pagans, who are constantly trying to propitiate the forces of nature. We don't do that because we trust in God, who is greater than nature, who made heaven and earth. The Lord will guard you from evil. He will guard your soul. The Lord will guard your coming and going, both now and forever. It's almost, if you like, a psalm of blessing. May the Lord keep you in all your ways, and so on and so forth. God is always with us. It is a psalm about the providence of God. God is with his people. He's protecting his people. Even in the most dire moments, he is there. He does not abandon us. Incidentally, this psalm does not mention the temple or the mountain of God in the singular. It doesn't say God is in his temple, therefore all is right with the world. Rather, God is with us, with each individual. He's not with the house of Israel, not with the people as a whole. He's with each individual. And so in this psalm, you see the beginnings of what some people regard as the most presumptuous of Christian doctrines. This idea that you, as an individual, have a relationship with God, and that God, the Almighty, has a relationship with you, the individual. A lot of people say it's absolutely ridiculous to think that the creator of the universe could be thinking about you. I mean, yeah, why should it be bothering to think about you? Aristotle, that great man who we Catholics revere, Aristotle was absolutely adamant that the gods could not be thinking about human beings. The gods were completely indifferent to human beings. The gods couldn't care less about human beings because the gods could only think about themselves, because they couldn't lower themselves to think about anything less than themselves. God was perfect thought, thinking about perfect thought. Therefore, God was thinking about himself. And of course, the ancient Greeks did not believe that the gods cared for them or the gods loved them, or indeed really that the gods were just. They did actually think the gods were completely whimsical. And often quite cruel. So that was why, for example, in the Trojan War, you had gods fighting gods over the fate of Troy. In the Aeneid, you have Aeneas relies on the help of his mother, who does intervene every now and then, but only when she feels like it. She's a very kind, loving mother, but she's a bit skittish. Venus. This is completely different. God is not skittish, not whimsical. God is constant in his love for us. And here we have, of course, the beginnings of that beautiful doctrine of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. Our hearts are turned to the Lord, naturally turned to the Lord, and God's heart is naturally turned to us. The relationship, the faith of the Christian people is a union of hearts. Cor ad cor loquitur, heart speaks to heart, as Cardinal Newman had as his motto. I love this psalm. I hope I've expressed to you some of my enthusiasm for it. It's a beautiful, beautiful psalm. All the very best. Bye.